For basically all of human history, our biology, the genetic code we were born with was pretty much our destiny. It was a blueprint, and you couldn't change it. But what if you could? Well, that's not science fiction anymore. That fundamental fact of life is changing right now.
And that's where we are, standing on the edge of a totally new era. For the first time ever, we have the ability to go into our own biological source code and rewrite it. The tool that makes this all possible is called CRISPR, and honestly, it might just be the most powerful technology we've ever gotten our hands on.
So what is this revolutionary tool really? Let's dive in and get the basics down, what it is, and maybe more importantly, where it came from.
Now, what's so incredible about CRISPR is that we didn't invent it. Not really. It's actually an ancient immune system that bacteria have been using for millions of years to fight off viruses. All scientists did was figure out how to harness it. Just think of it like a pair of tiny, programmable molecular scissors. We can tell them exactly where to go in our DNA and make a precise cut.
And the speed of all this, it's just mind-blowing. In 2012, it's repurposed as an editing tool. Just 8 years later, that work wins a Nobel Prize. And then bam, by 2023, we have the first approved therapies helping actual patients. The journey from a lab discovery to changing lives has been incredibly fast.
Okay, but it isn't quite that simple. Because not all gene editing is the same. And honestly, this next distinction is probably the single most important concept in this entire debate. It's the difference between treating one person's disease and changing the future of our species.
So you've got two paths. On one side, there's somatic editing. The key phrase to remember is, it stops with you. So if we edit your blood cells to cure something like sickle cell, those changes are only for you. They don't get passed on to your kids. But on the other side, we have germline editing. This is totally different. This is editing embryos, eggs, or sperm. And the crucial part here is that these changes are heritable. They get passed down to every generation that follows, forever.
And that's exactly why the stakes are just astronomically higher. With somatic editing, a mistake might affect one person. With germline editing, a mistake isn't just a mistake, it's a legacy. It would ripple through the human gene pool, multiplying with each new generation. And there's no recall button. There's no way to take it back.
For years, this was all just a theoretical debate, A big what if. There was a clear ethical line that most scientists agreed we should not cross. But then, someone crossed it, and a hypothetical risk suddenly became a very shocking reality. The year was 2018. That's the moment everything changed. It's when the world was suddenly forced to deal with the fact that this wasn't theory anymore, it was really happening. The news came from a scientist named He Jiankui. He announced that he'd used CRISPR to edit the embryos of twin girls, trying to give them resistance to HIV. The news sent shockwaves through the entire world and completely shattered the informal global agreement to not do this kind of work. The backlash was immediate and severe. Scientists from all over the globe spoke out, and the consensus was clear. The experiment was condemned as medically unnecessary, ethically reckless, and scientifically unsafe. It was seen as a dangerous leap into the unknown, crossing a huge ethical line long before the science was even close to being ready.
And that whole event really captures the central tension here, right? Gene editing holds both this incredible promise and this unprecedented peril. So let's take a look at both sides of that coin.
First, let's talk about the promise. Because for families that are facing these awful genetic diseases, this isn't some abstract debate, it's pure hope. We're already seeing real therapies curing conditions like sickle cell and beta-thalassemia. It's literally rewriting a person's future. And when you look at the trials for inherited cancers or forms of blindness, this technology could wipe out a tremendous amount of human suffering.
But then there's the peril. And this all comes back to germline editing. You see, CRISPR isn't perfect. You can have off-target mutations, where those molecular scissors cut in the wrong spot. You can have mosaicism, where the edit doesn't take in every cell, creating a risky genetic patchwork. And the biggest unknown? We have no idea what the long-term health effects could be, not just for one person, but for generations. And like we said, there is no undo button.
So this all leads us to the biggest questions of all. When you have this much power, how do you control it? And in a world that's already so unequal, who's actually going to benefit from it?
If you're looking for a clear set of rules, well, good luck. What we have is a confusing global patchwork. Lots of countries have banned it completely. Some say research is okay, but you can't implant an edited embryo.
And then huge groups like the World Health Organization can only recommend a pause. It's all voluntary, and we know that science doesn't stop for borders.
So let's just imagine for a second that we solve all the science. We figure out all the ethics. There's still a huge question. Who gets access? Because if history is any guide, new, expensive, revolutionary technologies don't usually go to everyone at once. They go to the people who can afford them.
And that is the ultimate fear. The kind of dystopian future people worry about. A world where the gap between the haves and have-nots becomes biological. Where wealth doesn't just buy you a better education or a nicer house, but a permanent, inheritable genetic advantage. A future that could literally hardwire inequality into our DNA.
So that's where we are. We've unlocked this incredible, almost unbelievable power. We can now direct our own evolution. The technical challenges are being solved faster than anyone thought possible. So the question is no longer whether we can edit life. We know we can. The real question is whether we can govern ourselves.